Raise your hand if you've ever Googled someone's name to see what comes up. You raised it early. Raise your hand if you've ever Googled your own name. Raise your hand if you're embarrassed to admit you Google people's names. If you Google my name, here's what will come up. One of two headlines. You'll either see Kwesi Millington, speaker and certified public speaking coach, or you'll see Kwesi Millington, police officer involved with tasering death at Vancouver Airport, sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. Now, at a networking event like this, you can see why there might be some confusion when you ask me, Kwesi, what do you do? I have two options. I can pull out my business card and tell you I'm a speaker and I'm a certified coach. Or I could leave that card in my pocket and say, well, I've been an RCMP officer for 12 years, but it's complicated. And the complication began on October 14th, 2007. It was a night shift. I walked into Vancouver Airport, full terminal on the international side, and under those fluorescent lights, myself and 3 other officers got into a physical altercation, a fight in layman's terms, with a Polish immigrant who had been destroying airport property. That may sound like a high action or a high activity call, but it's routine for us. We took him down, we restrained him, we got him under arrest, and then it was no longer routine. Because minutes later, I remember the EMS paramedic saying, time of death. Right there on the floor, in the international arrivals area, Robert Jacansky died that night. The incident was videotaped. If you YouTube it, it's still on there. I told the truth about what happened. I gave statements, yet I was still charged with perjury, which just means lying, sentenced to 2.5 years in jail. I thought, how could this happen to me? I always told the truth. It was on video, for God's sake. But I've come to learn something about the truth. I've learned that they say the truth will set you free, but it's sometimes only if it's the truth people want to hear. The truth is, I did everything by the book. The truth is, there was a tragedy that night, but as cold as it sounds, I did everything by the book. I did my job. And that's the unfortunate reality of policing. Of course, the public couldn't accept that. The policing community accepted me, but the general public and the legal system said, really, by the book? How could you say that if a man died? Hence, the charge for perjury. Now, you might be wondering, how, Kwesi, did you go from policing to public speaking? Well, the answer to that is a common answer. It's the same reason that any man does anything remarkable in his life. And that reason is because of a girl. Guys, raise your hand if you've ever done something because of a woman. Good. Honesty, I love it. Well, it was an innocent conversation, but my girlfriend Cindy said something to me that I'll never forget. It was early on in our relationship, and she described to me a coworker that was asking for money. Do you know anyone like that? That's always asking for money for causes or donations, things like that. There's good causes, but sometimes it can be what I call annoying altruism. She said, this coworker's asking me for money. I don't mind giving, but don't you find it annoying when people ask for money? Now, have you ever told someone what you think they wanted to hear as opposed to how you really felt? I wanted to impress her. So I gave her the diplomatic answer. I said, honey, it sounds like a good cause. Why don't you give? Raise your hand if you've ever been called out on your bullshit. She looked at me and those blue eyes pierced me, looked right through me like one of Donald Trump's lies. She said, "Why don't you tell me what you really think?" Guys, you have to tell your wife the truth, don't you? I said, well, honestly, what I've seen is that most of the disease donations tend to go into the pockets of the drug company CEOs more than to try to find a cure. So honestly, when I give donations, I do it more for the person rather than for the cause. I'll never forget what she said to me next. She said, "That's what I wanted to hear." She said, "As long as we're together, don't you ever sugarcoat your stories with me." I thought, wow, damn, I might have to marry this girl. But not only did I marry her, I followed what she said. I took my story to the stage. I started standing on my story instead of behind it. And what I found is that when you share your stories with others, when you share something about yourself with other people, not just what you do, but who you are, I found that it's actually in our imperfections that we make the deepest connections. When you dare to share yourself with others. And something you may not know about me, or you don't know about me, is that as a police officer and a man, I have a double whammy. I have that shield up. But I've suffered with depression, I've suffered with PTSD, and I've had thoughts of much worse. And I know that there are people out there that can't accept the fact that I share my story because they say, well, you're here, but a man died. What right do you have to talk about what you're going through? I do it because I've learned when we share our pains together, we can solve our pains together too. So if you go on Google and you type in Kwesi Millington, you'll see that in just over 30 days, I'll drive 4 hours to Ottawa to appeal my perjury charge before the Supreme Court of Canada. What you won't see is that win or lose, freedom or jail, no matter where this journey takes me, thanks to my wife, I'll continue to stand on my story. I'll continue to speak. Because if I can be a small part of creating a world where we believe that vulnerability equals victory, then I'll sleep well every night, no matter where that bed may be.